Hello and good day, ladies and gentlemen. Let's wait for the other participants to log in. In the meantime, feel free to browse through the different tabs of this page on the upper right corner, namely the Q&A tab, the Poll tab, and the Handouts tab. We will use those tabs later during the event. Currently, we are in webcast mode. It means that we display all media at a slight delay to ensure maximum compatibility for attendees across all devices and internet connections. So there will be about 30 seconds delay from the presenter's point of view to you, the attendee. In case you encounter problems, our technical staff will be happy to help you. Feel free to message us anytime through our Q&A tab. Before we begin, let me share with you some tips to make your experience better. There might be instances where you might experience auditory problems. If you do not hear any sound or you do not hear the presenter, make sure your device's volume is turned up. If you are using headphones, try to unplug them, then plug them back in again. Make sure also that your computer audio is not muted. If those action points still do not work, try reloading or refreshing the page or restart your browser. And the last resort would be restarting your computer and logging back in through the link to re-enter the webinar room. There may be instances when echo or feedback may occur. Echoes occur if the input-output audio devices are placed too close together. Your computer speakers may be too close to the microphone or your audio may be too loud. Also, you may have logged into the webinar twice. Please make sure to use only one application and one device. Having multiple people using different devices in the same room on the same webinar may also cause echoing. So to prevent echoing, please wear a headset or earphones, and you may also refresh the page. And you can also move your microphone away from your speakers. We would like to remind everyone that this webinar will be recorded. Now that we're all accounted for, we can start our virtual conference.
Good afternoon, everyone. The Philippine economy has been in an upwards trajectory. And even though this pandemic is expected that we will be able to weather this fairly better than other emerging markets. In part, we have to thank you, our cooperatives, for making this happen. Your work in the countryside has kept economies thriving in rural communities. Also, I would like to thank the important part of the Philippine Cooperative Center. PCC is the convener of the largest gathering of cooperatives and coordinator of national cooperative networks in the country. Through this Digital Forum Limited series, I hope that you would allow us to share our expertise and experiences so far during this pandemic. We'd like to help ensure that cooperatives throughout the Philippines do not only survive this crisis, but come out on the other side stronger. We are currently on multi-streaming in webinar platform and on FB Live. Our online audience can participate. During the entire duration of this webinar, all questions will pop out. Online poll results will also be known to everyone. We will also have our Q&A. We're lucky today to have a celebrity join us as my co-speaker. We have Michael Ricafort, Chief Economist of RCBC. If you regularly read the newspaper or watch business news, you would know that Michael here is the go-to guy for reporters whenever they need expert opinion on the economy, on finance, and on other related stories. Also joining us today are esteemed leaders of cooperatives and the IT sector. We have Roy Miclat, President and CEO of One CISP. Roy has been in the cooperative movement for almost 30 years now. His leadership turned around one CISP from its financial state before. At present, one CISP has 3.2 billion pesos in assets as of December 2019, from only about 135 million before he assumed the role as president. Joining us from Bukidnon is Sylvia Paraguya. Of course, we fondly call her Ibing. She is the CEO of the National Confederation of Cooperatives. NAPCO is a federation of 847 co-ops with about 5.8 million individual members. Her personal experience in agrarian reform and co-ops dates back to the 70s, with with her father being involved in the formation of the first co-op in Impasugong, Bukidnon. Rounding up our panel of reactors is Cuisia, founder and CEO of Traxion Tech. She has more than 2 decades of experience as an IT professional in banking, retail, real estate, nonprofit, and entrepreneurial industries. She is a member of the board of trustees of the Land Bank Countryside Development Foundation and an IT consultant of the Office of the President. Now, I would like to begin this webinar through my presentation. Again, I am very excited to have all of you here today. So I think we have more than about 500 or so registered, but we're now seeing about more than 1,000 participants in today's uh, online conference. Cooperatives hold a very special place in my heart. I have seen firsthand how co-ops are the lifeline of Filipinos in communities where they operate. Many of our members are also the unbanked and underserved Filipinos that I have been trying to help in my career in fintech or in promoting inclusive digital finance. A crisis like no other, a statement made by International Monetary Fund Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva. And thus, she continues to say that the COVID-19 pandemic requires a global response like no other. For us at RCBC, we have found an effective response to mitigate the effects of this situation through fintech or digital technology. Our digital products have not only kept the bank services afloat, more importantly, it provided opportunities for our clients to thrive and even help others during this time. Our banking services cater to the unbanked and underserved, where they get their cash via cardless ATM withdrawal and through our massive remittance partner network nationwide, such as Palawan Express, Palawan Pawn Shop, LBC, Byte Center, and MLUEA. Let me share to you our experiences so far. Time and again, collaboration is key, as we now call it digital bayanihan. And hopefully, we could be your lifelines in this difficult time as you have been the lifelines of your cooperative members. It has been more than 6 months since the novel coronavirus has been identified, and we're now on the 8th week of the enhanced community quarantine. I would like to share this chart from an unknown source. I think that this image shows the stages of how we've been responding to the situation. At the start, we were at the fear zone, full on uncertainty, dread, and panic. That was when the rolls and rolls of tissue paper were being hoarded by many. That was when we said that tissue was the new gold and ethyl or rubbing alcohol was the new oil. Then, as more information surfaced, we moved to the learning zone and began to take control of the situation. But where we want to be is in the growth zone to make lemonades of the lemons life gave us. We should not only survive this ordeal, but thrive in the new normal, the now normal where we live today. One of the biggest adjustments that we had to do is how we interact with each other. Filipinos are physically expressive. We are a nation of beso-beso, of yakap, of holding hands. But this is impossible at the moment. Social distancing is strictly enforced, and the threat of sickness and death is more than enough to convince even the most malambing of Pinoys to keep their distance. And the same value towards physical interaction extends to how Filipinos do their business. Filipinos work tirelessly for every single peso that they make. We treasure our hard-earned money and protect it at all costs. This is one of the reasons why many still prefer face-to-face transactions. Ito yung sinasabi kong physical interaction in doing our businesses. It can be hard to put our finances in the hands of someone we can't see. Aminin na natin, some of us still have the habit of counting the money you withdraw from ATMs, kahit na computer ang nagbibilang ito. But this mindset has to be reset soon and fast. From a high-touch engagement, the COVID-19 pandemic forces us to transition into high-tech, no-touch customer interface. Mind you, studies show that this is not such as a big challenge for us Filipinos. 77.5% of the population is digital savvy. Ang sa akin nga, if you can learn to use Facebook and trust it with your private data, all the more that you can use digital technology in managing and growing your finances. That is why we also would like to ask our co-ops to include financial education and digital literacy in your programs. These two subjects are not one and the same and must be taught together. This is only one of the big roles that cooperatives will be playing in the new normal. For our economy to bounce forward and continue its positive growth, I believe that cooperatives should be an active stakeholder and become an agent of economic stimulation in the communities where they serve. The population of the Philippines is now at 108 million. Almost half are in urban areas, and our median age is 24. We have one of the youngest populations in the world, and this is what we call demographic dividend, which is our edge over our neighbors. These are just some of the reasons our economy is predicted to grow rapidly compared to other emerging markets. And even with all the damage caused by the coronavirus, leading experts are still positive that the Philippines can endure this blow. All we have to do is pivot or to change course to what is the most viable option we have now. That is pivoting from bricks to clicks. This means that from the brick and mortar way of conventional business transactions, we must adapt to clicks or digital technology, bring our businesses online. Earlier, I have mentioned RCBC's digital products that we have sustained in terms of services offering throughout this quarantine period. First is the RCBC Online and Mobile Banking. This is our digital banking facility that is available on the web or via our RCBC mobile app. Second is our ATM Go service, and this is what's currently displayed on the screen. ATM Go is a mobile or handheld ATM facility that enables essential banking transactions such as cash withdrawal, balance inquiry, fund transfers, and e-loading in remote locations. Dahil 2G lang ang connection, ang kailangan ng ATM Go devices kahit saang pang sulok ng bansa, sa bundok man, ay nakapag-provide ng payout ang ating mga partners sa anumang lugar sa Pilipinas, kahit sa mga island barangays. And of course, third is our latest digital product called Discartec. It is the first inclusion super app in the Philippines Basically, it's a digital bank account where your money can earn 3.25% interest per year. But you know that what makes it super? You can also use this app to pay your bills, buy e-loads, procure telemedicine, make fund transfers, apply for loans, avail of insurance plans, and many more. And this platform can now help government in disbursing billions of social amelioration grants to uncarded and unbanked household beneficiaries with or without mobile phones. I am proud of RCBC because the company has made tremendous investments in these digital banking facilities. We were well prepared even prior when the COVID-19 pandemic happened. In fact, our digital group was already on work from home mode, 100%, more than a week before the ECQ declaration. But we didn't rest with what we have ready at the time. We continued to look out for the needs of our clients and provided their requirements at every turn. We have been very busy this past 2 months. Please allow me to make a quick rundown of how we have achieved in the last few weeks. We have secured around 6 BSP approvals, all within 5 weeks, including a monetary board authority allowing RCBC to accept government deposits for social amelioration program disbursements. RCBC was the first bank to implement the free InstaPay and Testnet transfers. We ranked first among local banks on audience perception and public sentiments during the ECQ with an 80% positive and just 1% negative rating. We recorded exponential growth in transaction volume and value, showing customer adoption and market traction. We signed MOU called the Mayang Sambayanihan Hatid Ayuda sa Kababayan with the Rural Bankers Association, NACO, MASPEC, Bayad Center on the social amelioration disbursement. We secured DSWD endorsement for the use of ATM Go across its regional offices nationwide. And in 3 days during the Holy Week, we were able to go live with three remittance partners, Palawan Express and Pawn Shop and Nuclear Byte Center, and with additional LBC for online send cash services. And lastly, we implemented the quick new to bank onboarding for retail customers, all digitally supervised. Now, let me tell you, these have also been extra challenging for my team to accomplish. These are achievements that we would have been proud to achieve in a year's time of work before. But again, we are at a new normal, and we have to respond accordingly. But these are also the kind of work that bears result. As of April 30, we have more than doubled our year-to-date transaction value and volume. The rest of our metrics have also grown exponentially. For some digital services, we have even reached over 800% growth rate during the ECQ period. This only proves that the market is now ripe for digital adoption. As long as we provide an easy, fast, and secure platform, the customers will come. For as long as your digital initiatives are ECQ ready, that is easy, convenient, and quick. But of all our recent undertakings, I am proudest of the ones we made for the greater Filipino population. Our Damayang Sambayanihan Hatid Ayuda sa Kababayan program was born early in the ECQ. From the get-go, we partnered with rural banks, payout channels, and cooperatives to offer our help in disbursing emergency cash funds to their families most vulnerable to the effects of the quarantine. Through our ATM Go service, we were able to secure that conditional cash transfer payouts are continuously received by 4Ps beneficiaries despite the restricted mobility and limited operations of banks in the Philippines. Because of their remote capabilities, payout partners were the ones who worked with DSWD to set up temporary sites in different barangays to offer their financial services. We have received reports that ATM Go has been effective in disbursing subsidies even in island barangays, coastal towns, and hard-to-reach areas such as rebel-infested communities in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region of Muslim Mindanao. We even deployed more ATM Go terminals during the ECQ to increase the availability of the service. Lastly, we offered the government a free use of our Dispartech platform to facilitate a comprehensive and inclusive disbursement system for the social amelioration program. This effort has received support from both the DSWD and the DSP. Here, even beneficiaries without bank accounts, mobile phones, or access to mobile data can easily avail of this service. These images on your screen are some of the testimonials we have gathered from satisfied clients and partners. There have been many success stories, but I'd like to tell you one thing about our payout partner, Chris Quizana. He is the one at the lower corner of the screen. Chris owns a loading center in Marinduque. He says he only wanted to make enough to support his family. However, after becoming a payout partner for RCBC's ATM Go service, Chris was able to do this and more. During the ECQ period alone, he was able to facilitate more than 1,500 withdrawals of Pantawid subsidies in his town. This was a volume of about 5.4 million pesos. Imagine that, a loading center with this much transaction in just a couple of weeks. Your cooperatives can be like Chris if you take a chance and explore these digital products that are available to your groups today. Sabi nga namin, basta may diskarte, kaya ninyong palaguin ang inyong mga negosyo. COVID-19 has changed the way people do banking. Right now, there is no telling when or how this pandemic will end. But one thing is for sure, there is no going back to how it was before. The crisis forced Filipinos to go digital given the limited mobility, evidenced by exponential growth in numbers in terms of consumer adoption and topping the audience perception during these extraordinary times. Hence, a digital hybrid will be the new normal. He is reimagining banking after COVID-19. We should be able to anticipate future scenarios and execute strategies that are proactive, agile, responsive, and quick to execute. We go back to Chris Quizana, the owner of the loading center in Marinduque. That is him on the right, in blue, during one of his disbursement caravans around his province. So, how did he successfully apply a digital initiative that is relevant and responsive? First, he saw the importance of the ATM Go service that he already has access to in ensuring that his kababayan are not without cash during this uncertain time. When the ECQ was enforced in Marinduque, nagbabarang-barangay na si Chris because he knew that residents will have a hard time traveling for their financial needs. He practiced social distancing and other advice from the government when transacting with others, such as wearing of masks and gloves. He even improvised a device, this money on a stick contraption, to make sure that the health of everyone is ensured. This is how he is striving at the moment, while being of service to many people. Again, I am telling you that it is not hard to replicate the success of Chris or find your own way to persevere in this new normal. The digital facilities are available here and now. You just have to know the discarte that is right for you. The government has declared that there is about 1.17 trillion pesos allocated for the National Recovery Plan. It is not yet certain, but talks are underway so that MSMEs or micro and small and medium enterprises can avail of some form of assistance. Of course, cooperatives are part and parcel of the MSME sector. If I may reiterate, there are just some of the features and functions of ATM Go. Be part of our massive digital partner network. We have covered 72 out of 81 provinces nationwide. It would be 100% coverage within this year. For more details and quick onboarding, please message the team. Take a photo of your contact details. I hope that I was able to equip you this afternoon with the skills and knowledge on how we can bounce forward together. Thank you, and I'll see you in the new normal. Good afternoon. So we will now proceed with the next speaker, and may I now introduce to you again Mike Ricafort, the RCBC Chief Economist.
Hi, thank you very much, Mr. Lee, for the generous introduction. A pleasant afternoon to everybody. Hope that you're doing well. We all know that it's a challenging environment. Some of us may have experience some hardships, especially the most vulnerable sectors of society. And hopefully that this afternoon we'll be able to make this discussion productive. Okay. Okay, let's start with the first slide. So let me start with the economic estimates of the Philippines. Now, our economy is expected to contract by 1.5% to a modest growth of 0.5%. Well, our original growth estimate was 6.5%. Philippine economy has been growing at least 6% from 2012 to 2019. It has been fairly strong. It just happened that COVID-19 came out of nowhere. It caught us all by surprise, and it looks like that it's primarily a health issue. It's not an economic issue. It's not a financial issue because our economies have been strong, including the Philippines. We have seen improved economic and credit fundamentals, and also the rest of the world. So now it's a deliberate effort on the part of governments, not only here in the Philippines, but also among the most powerful countries in the world, even in developed countries, to have this deliberate or a choice of locking down their economies, just to make sure that to prevent the COVID-19 from spreading and enable to save lives. That's a policy priority. The lockdowns may have resulted to lost sales, lost production, lost income for 2 months or so, but that is the penultimate policy objective. The businesses can forgo that, even governments. So now the governments around the world, including the Philippines, are now spending a lot on stimulus measures, able to make sure that there's immediate assistance and aid to the most vulnerable sectors, especially those who lost their livelihood, their jobs, even the smaller businesses that lost sales, may have to close down for the past 2 months or so. Now, hopefully, these interventions by the government around the world, they're spending record amounts of stimulus measures. Also, central banks around the world, including ours, are aggressively cutting interest rates, and they have been infusing unprecedented amounts of cash, liquidity, and credit into their respective economies, just to make sure that also there's at least at the very least there's a lifeline, and at best to encourage greater economic activity, to make credit cheaper, to encourage more investments and the creation of jobs, and at the very least protect jobs, especially the MSMEs, which account for 99% of Philippine businesses, and they employ more than half of the workforce locally. So how we see things, exchange rate would remain relatively stable. Then also inflation would be lower due to lower oil prices and a weaker economy. Interest rates, the central bank has already signaled that it could cut interest rates some more, currently at 2.75. That's already a record low. That would help the economy, because compared to the past crisis periods, this time it's different. We have low interest rates. So it's going to help those who, the most vulnerable sectors. And it will provide easy lifeline as well as easy credit for those who need them most. And U.S. interest rates are also, by consensus, expected to keep interest rates near zero, enable to support the economy. Maybe this could last for the next 2 to 3 years at the very least. Okay, next slide, please. So this is Philippine economic growth. We have been very strong. We're among the fastest growing economies in ASEAN, in Asia, and among relatively larger countries around the world. So it just happened now that our economic growth, because everybody else around the world is affected, we have to do the lockdowns as part of the stringent measures, for primarily because of public health reasons, to protect lives. That's the penultimate objective right now. Okay, next slide, please. Also, here's the consensus estimates for economic growth in the Philippines. So for this year, most see it moving close to zero, if not slight negative. And for next year, there would be a strong recovery, but this is because primarily of the low base this year. It could grow around 6 to 7% at least. We see it around 7 to 8%. But if you average between the two, if it's close to zero this year and around 7%, that's still below average of 3.5. So recovery may take maybe 1 to 2 years. Okay, next slide, please. So we have to consider the fact that the Philippine economic team, the national government, even before the 2-week extension of the lockdown, they already see as a best case scenario an economic growth of 0%. And the range is up to -1%. So that's already the emerging consensus also as we do the calculations and the math. Even IMF is looking at a modest growth of 0.6% this year and recovery of 7.6% next year. Okay, next slide, please. And because our sensitivity analysis for every 200 billion pesos loss in the Philippine economy, that's equivalent to 1% of economic growth. So our estimated loss right now for the Philippine economy could range between 1 to 1.2 trillion pesos. Okay, next slide, please. Now, here's our sensitivity analysis, especially for the most vulnerable sectors, society, the most hardly hit businesses and industries. We all know that for every month of lockdown, they tend to lose 8% of their yearly production, sales, and income, especially those who are really forced to shut down completely. So that for 2 months, that's equivalent to 16% of their yearly sales, their yearly income, and their yearly production. 16% already. So if you have to measure the effect on the economy, because Luzon, Metro Manila at least, and other areas subject to lockdown, that's at least 2/3 of the Philippine economy, maybe close to 70, around 70% of the whole economy. So that's why that's already the reality, because we may lose all that growth, or maybe very slight positive or around -1.5. But we're faring still better because other countries in Asia are expected to contract by -5 to -10%. Other developed countries, especially in Europe, are expected to decline by -10 to -15%. But we all know this is all by design. This is all by choice by governments around the world. It's just to save lives. Okay, next slide, please. Because they can afford it for now. That's why they're coming up with all these measures, learning from their experiences in the past crisis. So the most vulnerable sectors include those related to tourism, like airlines, transport, hotels, accommodation, and other discretionary products, the non-essentials, businesses that involve crowds, because social distancing would still continue in the coming months. That would be a new normal, even if the ECQ, the lockdown, would be eased after May 15. So there's still the preventive and the precautionary measures for social distancing. And other measures, such as businesses may need to provide their employees and their customers greater protection, enabled to prevent the spread of COVID-19. So that would be the new normal. And that would continue on even while other hard-hit industries would include manufacturers of non-essential products, exporters who rely on hard-hit countries as their market, and those industries that are subject to supply-side disruptions. And also some local workers who are displaced as well as OFWs. Okay, next slide, please. Now, here are the other vulnerable industries, those that are similarly highly cyclical, meaning if there's economic downturn, the demand would tend to go down because people are focused on basic necessities, like big-ticket items or transactions, like vehicles, or automobiles, property, because people now, in view of some job losses locally and some OFWs, who are one of the biggest markets for residential housing and other consumer products like vehicles and appliances, furniture. So there may be some slowdown on these discretionary products. Uh, Even highly leveraged or those with high levels of debt are also prone because of any slowdown in sales. Okay, next slide, please. So here's how it looks like in tourism. The biggest sources of tourists are Korea, China, and US. As long as even Thailand, one of the countries that have a huge tourism market, they admitted that, that there would only be a meaningful recovery in tourism business if there should be a vaccine or a cure. So that's the reality. It would really take a while. The consensus now for many industries like tourism, even vehicle production, garments, textiles, it would take maybe at least 1 to 2 years before we see some meaningful recovery moving towards normalization. Okay, next slide, please. And here are the essential products that will continue to do well. The test cases already during the ECQ or the lockdown. And this would still continue on. Because people and businesses, especially MSMEs, would be more conservative. There would be also some shift more to digital transactions, online businesses. So that would be an opportunity because there would be less need for person-to-person interaction. Next slide, please. So going forward, there may be some changes. We will be facing new normal in the coming months, especially as early as after May 15. Social distancing would change the way we do business, the way we work, our workplaces. There would be social distancing, different work shifts, work from home, and also increased digitalization, not only in business, but also in any other transactions, such as with government, as well as with other institutions, no? Even the types of educational institutions, wherein online learning would be emphasized further. And as well as further reforms by the policy reform priorities of the government would focus on food security, greater preparedness on pandemics, on disasters, as well as strengthening the healthcare, and eventually fiscal reform measures enabled to pay for the stimulus measures if the economy starts to normalize. And more importantly, one of the priority measures once we see some normalization in the economy would be increased infrastructure spending. That before COVID-19, this has been the growth driver. So we may need more spending on the biggest infrastructure projects, especially the build projects, as this would create more employment also locally and may even accommodate some displaced OFWs as well as a stimulus measure. Next slide, please. So even on MSMEs, we have to also note that there has been special emphasis on the measures undertaken by the government, both the national government and by the central bank on MSMEs. We have seen them, particularly the central bank, encouraging for the past week or so, encouraging the banks to increase their lending to MSMEs because of their high economic impact, at least to provide assistance or a lifeline. And also enable for some of the MSMEs, because some of them have been closed about 2 months already. So they may need also liquidity or cash, enabled to pay bills, and more importantly, to keep their workers. And there have been measures such as the BSP allowed banks to include their new lending to MSMEs as part of the computation of reserve requirements. So in effect, that's a de facto reserve requirement cut or infusion of liquidity, just to provide more loans and credit facilities for MSMEs. So that's the BSP has been pushing for that. Even the risk weights that are assigned for loans to MSMEs, the credit weight has been reduced to 50% from 75%. Not to mention also the sharp cuts interest rates by the BSP and able to further lower borrowing costs, because these measures would really help a lot. The measures to cut interest rates compared to the previous crisis periods, that would really provide a lot of help to our businesses who need credit the most, as well as the cut in reserve requirements. Central bank has signaled further support in terms of cut in interest rates and cut in reserve requirements, enable to infuse more liquidity and make more funds available for businesses such as MSMEs. Even the biggest businesses in the Philippines, those with deep pockets, it's also an opportunity for them, given low interest rates, to make strategic borrowings. Okay, next slide, please. Because interest rates have never been this cheap. The key BSP overnight rate of 2.75, that's the lowest on the record. And most of the long-term interest rates are at their lowest levels in 3.5 years. So this is a good opportunity for those who would like, especially businesses with deep pockets, to borrow more aggressively over the long term, make investments, and in the process create more jobs and other business opportunity. Now, so this has been the summary of the measures that the BSP has come up with. So new loans by banks to MSMEs since March 15 will be already included in the computation of reserves. So this would further incentivize the banks to lend more to MSMEs. Next slide, please. So that's also helping everybody else also. But at least MSMEs they have a special place when it comes to the stimulus measures and other relief measures that are coursed through the banking system. Okay, next slide, please. So at the very least, this would help a lot of MSMEs to weather these economic conditions. Hopefully, tide them over and eventually help them be on better footing eventually. And as the economy would start to reopen after any easing of the lockdown or the ECQ. Okay, next slide, please. So the lending of banks to MSMEs already total 540 billion. In fact, for micro and small enterprises, the total is 213 billion, and banks are required 413 billion. So there's an opportunity for banks to increase this to maintain that compliance, the minimum required by the central bank. For medium enterprises, it's much higher at 327 billion. So that's in excess. They're over compliance by 171 billion. So the BSP has signaled that with the easing measures allowing the computation, allowing loans to MSMEs to be included to computation of reserves, this level, the 540 billion, could be doubled. In fact, it's an upgrade because about 2 weeks ago, 2 to 3 weeks ago, the central bank signaled that these measures would add about 200 billion. Now, it would be another 500 billion. So that would be a lot, hopefully, if that happens because of these greater incentives. Okay, next slide, please. And also, there are also credit guarantees available. Currently, there's a facility by the national government, as announced by the Philippine Economic Team, the Department of Finance, just over the weekend. That's 125 billion in guarantees for MSMEs. And also, that's 50% guarantee, or that's around a cost of about 60 billion for the national government. And the guarantee is about 1%. There's also proposals also in Congress right now, able to increase also credit guarantees for MSMEs so that there would be greater access to financing. Banks would be more incentivized or more attracted to lend to MSMEs, as well as for their workers also. The workers of MSMEs, there's a subsidy program worth 51 billion already in place. Okay, next slide, please. So also, some of the MSMEs may include fintech companies which cater to the unbanked sector, especially small transactions that are normally not covered by big banks. And their customers normally include the most vulnerable sectors, as well as cooperatives. We have a lot of cooperative nationwide that they cater also to the most vulnerable sectors of society. So there may be some well, in terms of viability of specialized credit guarantees. So there may also be some further special focus on these two. Okay, next slide, please. And also, uh, the financing for well, when it comes, well, given these kinds of economic cycles, some fintech companies may also tap financing from banks. So any credit guarantee would help expedite and further lower the financing costs. And we have seen also the trend that some fintechs are also partnering or tying up with banks and other financial institutions. Slide, please. So let me maybe we have to move to the recap. One of the last slides. We move to the recap. Okay. So therefore, it's the best time, as we mentioned, as a summary, because of very low interest rates, the lowest in 3.5 years. This is one of the best times, the best opportunities to borrow, especially those with deeper pockets. And the exchange rate has been relatively stronger also, the best exchange rate among the best in 2 years. Also in the stock market or the equities market, it has bottomed out already. It has stabilized at the 5,000 levels. We have seen the bottom already at 4,000, and the valuations are relatively attractive with the price to book at 12 times or among the lowest in 9 years. So for long-term investors, this is still attractive, especially now that there's already a good base being established, and it's already given. If we see economic data that would show negative or contraction in economic growth, that's already given because that is by choice by the governments around the world to have lockdowns. That's a natural consequence. Even if even if they show that this is the biggest contraction since the Great Depression, but this is by choice because we're coming from a position of strength because primarily of the health issue. The challenge now is for both governments and the central banks coming up with all the stimulus measures and monetary easing measures respectively, even quantitative measures, just to ensure that to prevent the economies from moving into recession or at least cushion the risk of recession. So, but nonetheless, there's so much money and liquidity being infused by the central banks at low interest rates, and that has supported also not only the credit markets in terms of cheaper financing, but also gains in the financial markets. That's why we have seen gains in a lot of money being made in the fixed income market, in bonds. The peso has been stable. Stock market has already recovered by close to 40% from the lows last March, the lows posted last March 19. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so let me end my presentation by showing this one. This is the final insight, as I put it. So, what are the companies in the whole world with the highest market capitalization? These are companies that are moving into digital businesses, moving into the digital economy. So therefore, there's a premium. That's the way to go right now, digitalization. And the lockdowns related to COVID-19 are speeding up or accelerating the digitalization, not only of specific transactions, but of the whole economy. Look at the highest capitalized companies in the world. Number one is Microsoft. Of course, they use their software for digital business. Number two is Apple. They use the phones and the other apps. Number three is Amazon, the digital business, the deliveries. And that's kind of felt right now. Number four is Alphabet or Google because of Android, the other system that competes with Apple. and Alibaba, that's e-commerce. And you have the rest, you have Facebook, and the rest, Berkshire Hathaway, that's owned by Warren Buffett, Johnson and Johnson. We all know that their brick and mortar industries. Walmart is moving into the digital space as well, especially in US and in other countries around the world. Visa for payment system. Procter and Gamble, that's the brick and mortar industry, and so on. So with that, thank you very much, and hope we all stay safe, and hopefully we'll see some rebound or recovery in our local economy as well as in the global economy once the COVID-19 is better controlled or contained. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mike. And now, the first member of our panel of reactors, may I present to you Mr. Roy Miclat. Roy?
Yeah. Thank you, Lito and Mike. Thank you for the invitation to react on this very important phase of life in their operation. Uh, Three things that I had picked up in the presentation of Lito and Mike. One, uh, in the economy, there is contraction definitely within the year, but for cooperatives, I see opportunities. Opportunity in the sense that the economy will contract, but communities where cooperatives are based have to step up in terms of serving their members and their community where they operate. So business would be good for cooperatives. The challenge is to where to source out funds to fund their operation. Second point is that the digitization of business organization like cooperatives is now an imperative, but cooperatives cannot strictly dive into digitization 100%. So I think in the next 2 to 3 years there would be blended digitization where some operations can be digitized immediately due to limited resources of cooperatives, and at the same time maintain the face-to-face transaction of cooperatives in their respective organization. So it would be a blended type of digitization. But eventually, in the next 5 to 10 years, cooperatives have to embrace digital transformation of their organization, but not leaving the value added portion of dealing with members, adding value. The third point that I saw is that given the cooperatives, 70% of which are small cooperatives, while about 12% are medium to large, there is an opportunity to collaborate more and excuse me, share resources. Uh, I think one CISP is fortunate enough that prior to this COVID-19 pandemic, it has managed to start its digitization process. And right now we are offering DigiCo-op to cooperatives, whether it's micro, small, medium, or large, which is an ecosystem that they can enroll for free and use its services. So I I I think this is it was I don't look at it that this COVID provided us an opportunity to to make cooperatives realize digitization, but it's it it will speed up. It will help cooperatives to transition to digital operations without really spending so much, because CISP will be spending for this ecosystem, and this ecosystem can absorb all the platforms that are available in the market without prejudice to each and every one. So it's the cooperatives who will choose what platform they will use, but it is all, present in the DigiCo-op. So all the all they need is to enroll in the GG and be part of it. It's a marketplace. It has remittance, everything, just like any other platform or ecosystem, but it's free. And they can use it for their members and their cooperatives, and it can also generate revenues for individual members and for cooperatives. So I think this COVID-19 gave us an opportunity to uh, look at how cooperatives can adapt to the new normal. And lastly, cooperatives should now look into their business models, their existing business models, so that they can adapt to the new normal and still provide value services to their members and to their communities. So thank you.
Thank you, Roy. Thank you for that insights. Now we are going to Ibing. So Ibing Paraguya, who will also be reacting to the statements, to the presentations made earlier.
Thank you, Lito. Thank you for the invitation to be part of this conference. Our relationships with Lito in terms of reaching out to the poor dates back maybe 6 years ago, just for the conditional cash transfer. So from Lito's presentation, we see that co-ops really need to go digital, and I'm also very happy of the very updated data from Mike. Now I know that there's a credit guarantee which is around 125 billion for MSMEs, and because cooperatives are servicing MSMEs from their members, then this is really a good support. May I now go to my slide? First, the second slide, please. Just to introduce to you NATCO, second slide, that we are a network of cooperatives, 842, and the members of these co-ops is 5.8 millions. And we have around 220 billion consolidated assets with 22,070 offices. We have been doing a lot of work in terms of digitalization, because we have some support services on information technology dating back to 2006, and we started remittances and payments. The ATMs started in 2007, and the payment started around 4 to 5 years ago. Next slide, please. If I look at cooperatives, I'm very happy to see that during disaster, it's good to realize that in the end, we have our values and principles which can help us go through this disaster. But if I look at the principles and values, I see that there is something which we have difficulty in responding digitally. For example, the value of democracy and the principle on democratic member control. The members of the cooperative should have a say in the way the co-op is run. So every year we would hold annual general assemblies. We would bring 10,000 people, 11,000, 4,000. Now we could not do that because of COVID. And we're still waiting when it is possible for us to hold general assembly. And we're still not allowed to do it digitally. So I think we have the base on which we can anchor ourselves to survive, but we have difficulty in responding to the principle of democratic member control and the value of democracy. Next slide, please. We'd like to show you how the co-ops have responded. So right now we have seen that the board meetings are done virtual, and it's so funny. One of the posts of the managers is, who says seniors cannot adapt to change? So they're now holding their board meetings virtually. We also have our co-ops prepared so that the staff will feel safe and comfortable. So you will see there the picture of the office, which has separation from the members, and the members are distanced a bit far from each other. Then you have the co-op responding to the needs of the members and the community. The response to the members is also anchored on the fact that 3% of the surplus of the co-ops are used for community initiatives. So you'll see there a picture of a co-op which try to buy the produce of the members and sell to the community, or a co-op providing free transportation for the frontliners. So we are monitoring how the co-ops have helped their members, not just their members, the community and the frontliners. Next slide, please. This is one of the things that we have done recently, which we have not done before. You have heard about Bayanihan Musikahan, and PBSP is providing food packs to several communities in NCR and in Rizal. What we did was to consolidate the packs from 3 cooperatives. You have the Taloy Norte in Benguet, the Pasco in La Union, and the Golden PMPC in Tarlac. So Taloy provided the veggies, La Union provided the dried fish, and then for the Golden Pansy, you have the rice. And these are brought to the different communities in Rizal, Quezon City, and Manila. So we are very happy of what we have done. Next slide. At NATCO level, we have started some efforts in digitalization. So actually, we have a cloud-based core banking system, which is a loan origination system, and a distributed core banking system. This is running in around 27% of our members. And we connected to this a data analytics platform. We have a way to connect to the Credit Information Corporation for the legal report. And we have also done a text blast, which allows us to notify our members, and the members can do balance inquiry. The latest development that we have done is the Kaya payment platform, which allows the member to do fund transfer, bills payment, and e-loading. And this can be done on several channels. They can do this over the counter, by mobile, by ATM, and by MPOS. Upcoming would be our online inquiries via our e-co-op web, and this will allow us to do online loan application, online membership, and online inquiries on their balances. Next slide. But currently, we also have online platforms which allow us to train cooperative leaders and management. So we have an eNATCO learning platform. We launch our e-co-op clinic. We have a platform for overseas Filipinos. And we also try to inform the cooperatives on the new developments because of COVID. And these are found in our website. Next slide. At the end of the day, we would have to do a lot of work with regards to our members, the individual members of the cooperatives. And I'm happy that Lito mentioned this, that we really need to do digital literacy. We have to do some counseling, entrepreneurship training, and now even nutrition, health, and immunity, because I don't think this is the end of pandemics. I am sure there some other forms will come in, but we should be ready with that at our family level by having good nutrition, good health, so our immunity is beefed up. So here I also included that in our estimates, the portfolio of the cooperatives within NATCO is around 147 billions, and the estimate of the managers is that the range of MSMEs could be 45 to 70%. If I take 50%, that would be around 74 billion of MSMEs, and we have to help them if they need our support. Then you'll also see that the counseling should also help the members, because even if there is a moratorium right now, we would ask our members that the best way to do it is to pay now than postpone the payment. Even before, we were already advocating for cash reserve savings for our members. And for digital literacy, we had to teach them how to do online payment and online selling. I'm very happy to see how the ordinary members are able to sell anything online. Next slide, please. So after ECQ, digital pa more. We're looking at how NATCO can implement our services online. We hope we can be helped so that our Kaya payment platform can be connected to InstaPay and PesoNet. we would like to see how we continue the experience of aggregating the products of the members to be linked to the member consumers of the co-op. And basic to our principles is cooperation. We should continue the pooling of funds. And we're looking at the stimulus package mentioned by Lito and how we can be included there. And of course, the advocacy for regulatory relief for cooperatives from CDA. I'd like to quote what Prof. Morato said, that in the end, mankind will overcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ibing, for that insights, and also medyo mahangin dyan sa iyong lugar sa Bukidnon.
Yeah,
Okay.
hindi now.
And now going to Cuisia, who's our last reactor for this afternoon. Anne?
Yeah, good afternoon, and thank you for including me as one of the reactors in today's webinar. It's very educational, it's very enlightening, and I hope our viewers are able to get so many takeaways, especially from when we say what's the impact of this COVID-19 to our current cooperative activities and their management, and how do they provide services to their members. Of course, it's funny, but it's still unfortunate that this thing will be the driver, diba? There's a very popular and viral slogan, or sort of like an infographic in the internet saying what who drives or who drove your digital transformation in your organization. Is it your CEO? Is it your CTO? And but the third option is COVID-19. So I hope we didn't have to come to this type of situation for us to realize the value of this, because it's 2020 anyway. But nevertheless, the sad reality here in the Philippines, in our country, there are so many stumbling blocks that won't allow the full digital transformation for these cooperatives. And I think there is some merit into, certain technology partners such as Traxion in pursuing this and advocating this to our cooperatives. Quick share of our experience last year. We had a roadshow in over 1,000 cooperatives, and typical question, gusto namin yan, very ideal, but wala namang internet. So yun, it's a sad reality, but I think through our grit and drive, we are pursuing a free data. Well, we've launched our digicoop.ph, and we are forging with one of the telcos right now a free data whenever they access digicoop. So that should have been based on our conversation last first quarter. It should have been this last quarter of this year, but probably it will be delayed because of this COVID-19 situation. Second challenge would be challenge in investment. That's why Digicoop.ph is free. You don't need to pay any license fee for this. And that's one of the challenges also is embracing technology. So we provide also free training. Quickly, this is the community banking that is actually the overall description, overall features of our DigiCoop. It's you could expand your co-op services through this all-in-one module kiosk. So this is actually a community banking wherein your members could become sort of like your agents. This is sometimes coined as an agency banking, but we would like to call it this way because it's more of really having your local people engage your local community, providing these services wherein they can sell insurance, they can provide all of these other financial services, and be able to have revenue for their own. So this is beyond financial inclusion. This is actually providing means for our micro cooperatives, especially the micro cooperatives who wouldn't have the capacity to build this for themselves, a means for providing their members a technology or a platform for building their own wealth. So some of the features would be on the next slide. Yeah, so this has a cooperative management system. You could do your own EKYC registration. You have your own members module to check the profile, manage the services. You can also have events registration, e-learning, an election module, which is one of the most popular activity every year for cooperatives. You could do your own loan application or loan origination. It has also marketplace wherein cooperatives can sell their own products and their agents and members can have a commission out of it. So you're providing actual livelihood using technology for your members. Of course, the usual integration with the payment system, including InstaPay, PesaNet for the in and out and bills payment, remittance, and others. It also connection to the core insurance system, providing additional livelihood for your members to sell standard insurance or as a referral, not actually sell, but to refer. So they get referral fees for every insurance product sold. It automates the generation of the policy plus also the claims, which is one of the challenges when claiming any benefits from any insurance companies. So an additional module would be core banking. It's an option for co-ops to proceed with this 360-degree experience so that they can already do their own processing end to end. So I think that's one of the many opportunities that we can as a tech partner. And I think there are so many fintechs in this community, in our community of fintechs, where they can also be able to aggregate and be part of this ecosystem that we are talking about and really provide more services to our cooperatives. We have so many cooperatives needing and requiring your help. So we welcome this kind of opportunity to build a bigger network for everyone and help the smaller cooperatives. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anne. Thank you so much for that contribution to this discussion this afternoon. And of course, we would want to share to you the results of our poll questions. If we may flash it on screen. We're just loading the poll questions. And again, thank you so much for all the viewers, the online viewers watching us today. And just would like to, but while waiting for that, the loading of that information, I just would like to read, a message from Noel Dolor. Let us salute all the cooperatives for doing their noble deeds of compassion in the way they provide help to communities as well as to our hardworking frontliners in defense and in the health services sector and as part of the supply chain. There are indeed several ways on how they did prove themselves as not only silent heroes but most precisely soldiers of compassion. Now, if only more and more of mainstream society will recognize the noble deeds that co-ops are doing during this crucial period. So, of course, we've been getting lots of questions from our online viewers. But before we answer or we get some of those questions to be answered by our panelists, maybe now flash the poll results. Are we ready? Okay. While waiting for that one, there's also one question here from. Okay, there you go. So first poll question: given the COVID-19 pandemic, are cooperatives in the country ready to fully embrace digital transformation? So for 39% said only half of them. Okay, so I think majority, or I think half of the registered co-ops, or over 20,000 registered co-ops in the country, are practically small in operations. No? And I think this will also be one of the questions that we will be asking Roy and Ibing shortly. So our next poll question: what are the perceived challenges or barriers that co-ops in the country see in adopting digital? So the highest would be the letter B. 30%. No, it requires technical expertise from co-ops, and followed by letter C, technical infrastructure at 27%. We also have huge investment on the third uh, rank. Okay, and followed by co-op board approval. Next poll question, you have if digitalization is all about collaboration without huge capital or technical investment, will co-ops in the country quickly engage? So 49% said it depends, no? And followed by absolutely yes, 100%. Next, the last question. If social distancing will be the norm in the next 2 years or until a vaccine is available and more than 7.5 billion people are vaccinated, what measures or initiatives will co-op adopt? So the highest was letter B, totally different approach and business process. So I think we have seen the results of the poll questions, and it really indicates that majority of our co-op operators or co-op partners are really gearing towards a new way of doing business post-COVID or post-ECQ scenario. So maybe now have the panel, the speakers and the reactors on the screen because there are several questions that are now that we have received so far. And I think just to go back to that first poll question regarding the that more than half of the co-ops, registered co-ops in the country are classified to be small in operations. So my question to both Ibing and to Roy is it more of a survival of the fittest, matira ang matibay in this particular post-COVID scenario? Start with Ibing maybe.
Can I?
Sige, Roy, go ahead.
Si Ibing muna. Ladies first.
Okay, Ibing.
Maybe I'd like to clarify. 51% of the reporting co-ops are micro, then small 36%. So that's around 87% na micro and small.
Micro.
Yeah. So it depends on what type of co-op you are. If you are a small or micro agricultural cooperative and operating in a very local area, you can still survive because your members are still there. And right now, if you are in a rural area, like where I am, most of the industries are operating because these are food based. You have Del Monte, you have Dole, you have the poultries, you have the piggeries. So the farmers are still planting. So if you are a cooperative working with this type of members, then you will still survive. I think heavily affected with those in the right now in the Luzon, in particularly NCR, because of the restrictions in terms of the movement. And if you look at NCR, most of the members would be coming from outside of NCR. So the capacity to service would largely depend if they have the digital capacity. Otherwise, it is difficult to reach out to the members. But if you're in a rural area, you can walk to your co-op.
How about you, Roy? Thank you, Ibing.
Yeah, basically, in their DNA, the cooperative DNA, there's always that genome of collaboration and cooperation. So I think, just like what Ibing said, small cooperatives in the countryside will still thrive because they're more like family in terms of treating themselves. They know each other. They have a very limited operations. But the thing is, how do you now link these smaller co-ops so they slowly they can grow, they can have their market, they can improve, they can expand their businesses together with big cooperatives in the urban areas or in the semi-urban areas, which I call urban areas. So digitization will take a very big role in linking these cooperatives from the bigger ones from the small to medium to large cooperatives to extra large cooperatives in the countryside and in the urban areas. Now, uh, I think this will also give uh, opportunities not only in terms of inter-cooperative or cooperative collaboration, but even to non-co-ops like your group, Lito.
Yeah.
I mean, co-ops now have to do more collaboration, not only among themselves, but with other groups that can strengthen, enhance cooperatives in their operations. We have to look at now collaboration as not as a vital ingredient in surviving post-COVID scenario, because it has to be the whole community, whether you're a co-op member or not a co-op member, or a private enterprise or a cooperative enterprise. We just have to collaborate to spur the community economy, the local economy, and the national economy. It has to be more on a collaborative effort post-COVID scenario. And digitization, which is, I look at it as a blended digitization in the next 2 to 3 years, will happen, and it has to be embraced both, no? Like halimbawa, for you in the private enterprise, we just have to trust cooperatives. Of course, you, Lito, have been trusting cooperatives in the last 8-10 years, no? But other private enterprises, they just have to learn to collaborate with organized groups like cooperatives, because they will be providing them not only the muscle in the countryside or in their respective communities, but the ready market for their produce. So this could benefit mutually the the collaborators or doing cooperation work within the ecosystem that we will be building a post-COVID scenario. I think this is the this is the most important way to go post-COVID. Thank
Pero
you.
I think just a follow-up question on that, Roy, what can we do with micro and small co-ops right now? I mean, is there a way of the big co-ops being able to bring, support the smaller co-ops? I mean, is there a way of how of consolidating all the micro co-ops by the much larger co-ops operating in the country, so that they will still be in the in the ecosystem?
Yeah. Uh, cor- uh, CISP have started doing that. That's why with Traxion, in which we have, just to let you know that Traxion, we also invested in Traxion, one CISP, so they can help us in terms of digitizing cooperatives. One initiative that we are doing now is the DigiCoop, which is a free ecosystem for cooperatives. Whether you're micro, you're small, you're medium, you're large, you can be part of it at no cost to you. At no cost to you. So then they are also being trained to use this ecosystem, to this
Yeah.
system. So this is one of the initiatives by one CISP in helping small co-ops, micro co-ops to embrace digitization, which is, personally, for micro and small co-ops, it will be blended, no? But for medium and large cooperatives, I think it would be two-thirds should be digitized, one-third should be face to face, because they have to embrace that because of large number of members. But for micro and small, the initiative of one CISP to bring this micro and small co-ops through DG co-ops in digitizing them, the
Yeah.
big co-ops are funding this initiative without cost for this small and micro. So, and then if they will be part of the ecosystem, we can work together with NATCO, the Kaya platform, because it absorbs all platforms within, like RCBC can be part of it. I mean, uh, CISP cannot do all things, no? We need partners, we need collaborators, we need support. So everybody is welcome in DigiCoop to enhance it, to support small and micro cooperatives. But this is our initiative of doing so. So
Yes. Thank you, Roy, on that.
this is
I
all
think
us
what
being
yeah, I think what is
uh,
also evident in the discussions we had this afternoon is the fact that most of our co-ops right now also would have their own digital initiatives within their circles or within their ecosystem. So, like for example, the DG Co-op of 1CISP, I mean the Kaya payment platform of NATCO, and other digital platforms that we have seen so far in most of the financial uh, enterprises, especially for the for that particular sector. I just have this one question. Uh, Despite the pandemic and the social distancing measure, it seems that cash is still the king in terms of currency. Do you see internet and mobile banking overtaking in the near future? The card-based channels such as ATMs and POS that process withdrawals and cash out transactions. So I think that question was actually addressed to me, but I think we also want to ask the responses from the panel. But starting off, I think we have seen that while the Philippines has been regarded to be the first among developing markets in terms of advancing inclusive digital finance in terms of regulatory framework. I mean, like for example, the support coming from the PSP, coming from SEC, and other even CBA. We have seen that during this pandemic, during this crisis, we have seen that really cash is still king. We have seen that most of the Filipinos still do not have access to digital channels by which they could transact on a daily basis. But I think this crisis also proved to be a way by which they could now transition to all of these available digital platforms. And I think I would like to ask Mike on this one, on how he sees digital growing exponentially in the next 2 to 3 years, even during COVID or post COVID, because until such time that the vaccine has been is there developed and all 7.5 billion people are vaccinated, then that's the threat of this virus is still imminent. So, Mike, what do you think of this? I mean, in terms of the eventual, the scale in terms of adoption of the consumers when it comes to digital transformation. Mike, I think you're on mute. Okay, well, so we get back to Mike. Maybe we can ask Anne on that one, that regard.
Yeah, I think though very very slow adoption of cashless transactions or systems in the Philippines, we are getting there. I'm kind of positive about this, but it's just a matter of really creating more players in the ecosystem. When you are able to link several players, several cooperatives together, for example, from a member getting a loan from the co-op, what does he do with that loan amount? So he would do the basic things, which is paying off the bills, the going to a marketplace probably where there are also players selling their own products and other things. So in that way, you are having some sort of a hybrid use of that cashless payment, wherein some parts of the cash that he gets from the co-ops are being spent inside the system and it doesn't go away. It doesn't go out of the system. And I think Gcash and Paymaya and Coins are the three big players in this area, and we've seen very successful traction about this from our market, and it's high time for cooperatives having the biggest number of membership in the country to also adopt the same. And it's just really a matter of educating these people and plugging in more users and more merchants or more network players in this ecosystem.
Thank you, Anne. And I think just to ask quickly, Ibing on this one. Now that you have your digital platforms in place, I mean, you have adopted this, I think, years ago. What percentage of your current membership has actually adopted and used it in their own operations?
Right now, we're still at about 18% of our cooperatives using the platform, but some of these are big cooperatives. So if they're able to expand the use of the platform across the branches, then I think we'll reach about 1 million of individual members. The nice thing about Kaya that I see is that even the small cooperatives can really use it. And in fact, we're seeing small cooperatives being able to use their system for the community. For example, in Magsaysay, Davao del Sur, you have there a small co-op which becomes the place where the members pay their electric bills instead of going to a nearby place. So I think it is important that as we go along and as more merchants are getting inside, then we'll see more co-op using the Kaya payment platform. So because it is a shared service, it is really useful not just for the big co-ops but even for the small cooperatives. And we're hoping that because of the experience in COVID, we'll see more co-ops pushing for the adoption of the payment platform.
Great. I think because of some time constraints, no, we are running out of time right now. I think what is really, you know, I think the subject or the ultimate output or insight in this particular discussion that we had this afternoon is really more about collaboration. How co-ops and the private sector, I mean, the IT sector as well, in terms of providing the platforms, in terms of having to engage all the stakeholders, insofar as financial education and digital literacy are concerned. I think all of us right now should put more premium or emphasis on those two items, because again, at the end of the day, financial education without digital literacy will not make our initiatives on digital transformation work. So I think what we would want to also encourage our fellow our co-op movement around the country, especially with the support of the Philippine Cooperative Center, to really ensure that we still have those continuous learning education or learning modules in terms of capacitating every single member or every single co-op operating in the Philippines, regardless whether there's micro or small or medium size co-ops operating in the country. And with that, I think thank you so much again to our speakers, to my co-speaker, Mike Ricafort, and of course our reactors, our panel of reactors, led by of course Roy Miclat, and of course Ibing Paraguya, and also we have Ann Cuisia. And I think just for one last message to everyone, I hope that we were able to bring you from the fear zone towards the learning zone of this COVID-19 situation. I'm also excited to see you in the growth zone, where we will strive to shield our countrymen from the worst of this crisis so we can continue to build a brighter future for everyone. You know where to contact us for any questions that you may still have. Thank you. Keep safe always. Maraming pong salamat at magandang hapon sa inyo lahat. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
thank you, thank you.